Dear students, welcome back. We are reading chapter Discovering Tut. The Saga Continues, written by A.R. Williams. So today let's continue. Before that, let's have a recap of the portion that we have read. So we have read about the chapter that it was January 5 to in the year 2005 when the world's most famous mummy, that is of King Tut, was taken out of the cemetery for a CT scan. The atmosphere, it was quite ominous as dark-bellied clouds had scudded across the dark sky all day. And now they were covering the stars that were in the sky. There were tourists also. All the afternoon, the tourists, they continued visiting Tut's underground tomb. Some of them were seriously reflecting over the curse. Some of them were looking at the paintings. Some of them were quite surprised seeing the golden coffin of King Tut. All this project was actually undergoing under the supervision of Zahi Hawass, who was the Secretary General of Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities. But this person, he was little disturbed as he found the mummy in a very bad shape because of what Howard Carter, the discoverer of the mummy, what he did to the mummy. But surprisingly, they all were satisfied that after so many years also, the treasures that were buried along with the mummy, they all were complete. These treasures were considered to be the richest royal collection that were the sure guarantee of belief in the theory of resurrection, that is, life after death. So, this thing has always created a sensation among people. Tut's mummy was also buried with the things which were required to be used in daily life. And Howard Carter, when he was done with recording the funerary treasures, the burial treasures of King Tut, he started investigating the coffin, the mummy of King Tut. But he was actually met with a problem as he found that mummy was stuck to the bottom of the coffin. He tried keeping it under the sun, heating the resins, trying to melt it with the help of the heat of the sun, but nothing happened. Then he decided to chisel it into different joints, from the different joints, and take it out from the coffin. And King Tut's mummy was adorned with the jewels, the richest, the jewelry that that was a belief at that time that one could also carry their riches along in the afterlife. And that's why King Tut's body was adorned with all kind of jewelry, from collars, necklaces, bracelets, amulets, to sandals, sheaths for fingers and toes, etc. Even his coffin was made of pure gold. So we have read up to this part. We will start from page 25, third paragraph. That archaeology has changed substantially in the intervening decades, focusing less on treasure and more on fascinating details of life and intriguing mysteries of death. Intervening means occurring in time between events, appearing in between. And here, intriguing refers to a thing which can actually arouse one's curiosity, startling, unexpected. So, in the past, after a few decades, it was observed that there has been a drastic change in the archaeology. Earlier, it only focused on the treasures found with the mummies and all that, but now it focuses on details of life and the mysteries of death. Earlier, it just kept on focusing on the treasures. It also uses more sophisticated tools, including medical technology. In 1968, more than 40 years after Carter's discovery, an anatomy professor x rayed the mummy and revealed a startling fact: beneath the resin that cakes his chest, his breastbone and front ribs are missing. So, technology, the archaeology now, various kind of technologies are also involved in knowing more about the mysteries, and thus it uses more advanced medical technology and tools for the research work. In the year 1968, an anatomy professor, he also x-rayed King Tut's mummy, And startling facts were revealed that the front limbs and the breastbone of King Tut from King Tut's body were missing. Today, diagnostic imaging can be done with computed tomography. Computed tomography means it is the full form of CT scan, that is known as computed tomography, which provides a three-dimensional scan of a body with the help of hundreds of X-rays in cross-section together. So today diagnostic imaging can be done with computed tomography, that is CT, by which hundreds of X-rays in cross sections are put together like slices of bread to create a three-dimensional virtual body. What more would a CT scan reveal of Tut than the X-ray? And could it answer two of the biggest questions still lingering about him? How did he die, and how old was he at the time of his death? King Tut's demise was a big event even by royal standards. He was the last of his family line, and his funeral was the death rattle of a dynasty. But the particulars of his passing away and its aftermath are unclear. Demise means death. Death rattle refers to the sound or a kind of warning, a kind of, you can say, जैसे घंटी बजना होता है, that it was a death rattle, that it was a symbol of showing the downfall of the dynasty. So here, through this passage, the writer wants to convey that now with the help of advanced technology, that is the CT scan machine, it can give a virtual image of the whole body. And with the help of this technology, King Tut's body would be scanned to find the answers of the two important questions, that how he died and how old was he at the time of his death. His death was a shock to the royals, a kind of death rattle of the dynasty. Shock to the royals also, as he was the last person of his family line, and his funeral indicated the end of his dynasty. However, what happened after his death, is still not clear. Thus, we see that how, with the end of the life of King Tut, the dynasty also came to an end. Now, in the next paragraph, we are informed about the father and the forefathers of King Tut. So, the mention is here of Amenhotep III. Amenhotep III, Tut's father or grandfather, was a powerful pharaoh. Now, the writer is not sure whether Amenhotep III was father of King Tut or grandfather, because the evidences are still not available. But he was a powerful pharaoh. Pharaoh refers to, it is actually, uh, you can say, Egyptian title given to a king, a title given to an Egyptian king. So this pharaoh, he ruled for almost 4 decades at the height of 18th dynasty's golden age. So Amenhotep III's ruling period is considered to be the golden age of the dynasty, because the dynasty flourished during his rule, because he was a powerful ruler and he ruled for around 40 years. His son Amenhotep IV succeeded him and initiated one of the strangest period of the history of ancient Egypt. So his throne was actually succeeded by his son, who was named as Amenhotep IV, and he started one of the strangest period of his time. Why it is called strangest? Let's read next. The new pharaoh promoted the worship of Aten, the sun disk, and changed his name to Akhenaten, or the servant of Aten, and moved the religious capital from the old city of Thebes to the new city of Akhenaten, known as Amarna. He further shocked the country by attacking Amun, a major god, smashing his images and closing his temples. It must have been a horrific time, said Ray Johnson, director of University of Chicago's Research Center in Luxor. The site of ancient Thebes and the family that had ruled for centuries was coming to an end, and then Akhenaten went a little wacky. So we come to know that how Amenhotep IV, when he succeeded the throne, he brought weird changes in the kingdom. He promoted the worship of Aten, the sun god, the sun disk. He also changed his name from Amenhotep to Akhenaten, which meant the servant of God. And he also shifted his religious capital from Thebes to new city known as Amarna. He also attacked the images, the temples of god Amun. And that is why Ray Johnson, the director of University of Chicago, he said that this had been a bad time for the empire as the family who ruled for centuries came to an end. And Akhenaten, he destroyed everything in a very odd manner, and that's why he termed Akhenaten fourth, that is, as a little wacky. Wacky means a little crazy person. After Akhenaten's death, a mysterious ruler named Smenkhare appeared, and he appeared briefly and exited with hardly a trace, and then a very young Tutankhaten took the throne. King Tut, as he is widely known today. The boy king soon changed his name to Tutankhamun, living image of Amun, and oversaw a restoration of old ways. He reigned for about 9 years and then died unexpectedly. So, uh, after Akhenaten's death, there came a ruler whose name was Smenkhare, but he ruled for a very short period of time. His entry to the kingdom and exit hardly left a trace there. And then it was that King Tut, he took over the throne and then he started ruling the dynasty. This king, he also changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun, means the living image of Amun. He changed his name just to show his respect towards the god Amun. And he also restored all the old ways. And the old ways means, again, he had rebuilt the temples of Amun and started worshipping God Amun. Then he ruled for about 9 years and he died unexpectedly. No one knew that how this king died, but after his death, this dynasty came to an end. Regardless of his fame and the speculations about his fate, Tut is one of the mummy among many in Egypt. How many, no one knows. And the Egyptian Mummy Project, which began an inventory in late 2003, has recorded almost 600 so far and is still counting. So, regardless of his fame and speculation, Tut's mummy is the first mummy which was discovered there, and it has become as the center of attraction, and it has always fascinated the archaeologists, the researchers, the scientists, because they all wanted to know why and how he died. But no one knows about that. And the Egyptian, under this Egyptian mummy project, which was actually began to find out the mummies and then scanning the bodies, it is recorded that there were 600 and mummies were discovered, and still the number was increasing. So after the discovery, the next phase was a scanning the mummy with a portable CT machine donated by the National Geographic Society and Siemens, its manufacturer. So the project, it aimed at discovering the mummies and then scanning the mummies. So thus King Tut is one of the first mummies to be scanned in death as in life, and moving regally ahead of his countrymen. So it is said that King Tut's mummy was always considered to be the first choice of the archaeologists. It has always fascinated the archaeologists. And thus, under this Egyptian mummy project, more than 600 mummies have been recorded so far. But King Tut's mummy was the first one to be scanned by the CT scanner under the next phase of scanning the mummies with the machine which was donated by the National Geographic Society and Siemens, the manufacturer. So, in King Tut's mummy was scanned in death as in life, moving regally ahead of his countrymen. This meant that King Tut, he was widely known when he was alive, and still after his death, he has been the center. His mummy has been the center of attraction, center of fascination for the archaeologists, the researchers, and that's why when the scanning the second phase of this project started, then King Tut's mummy was the first one to be scanned. So the impact of King Tut, it continued. The story which fascinated the people, it still had a deep impact over the people. So, thus, a CT machine scanned the mummy head to toe, creating 1700 digital X ray images in cross section. Tut's head scanned in 0.62 millimeter slices to register its intricate structures, takes on eerie detail in the resulting image. With Tut's entire body similarly recorded, a team of specialists in radiology, forensics, and anatomy began to probe the secrets that the winged goddesses of gilded burial shrine protected for so long. So the scanned CT scan machine scanned the body by creating 1700 digital X-rays in cross section. Tut's head was scanned in 0.62 millimeter slices to record the tiny detail. Even the minutest details were recorded with the help of this scanner, and the resulting image was quite strange. And a team of forensics, anatomy experts, the radiology, they started examining the secrets of this mummy, the grave that had been protected by the flying goddesses for a long time. Again, one of the Egyptian beliefs, it is believed that how the mummies, the tombs, they are protected by the goddesses forever. That night of the scan, workmen carried Tut from a tomb in his box. Like pallbearers, they climbed a ramp and a flight of stairs into the swirling sand outside, then rose on a hydraulic lift into the trailer that held the scanner. Now, during the night, the workmen, those who were lifting the mummy, they climbed upon the ramp and the flight of stairs to carry the body from the tomb into the spinning sand outside as they moved towards the trawler. They rose the body into a hydraulic lift and then the trailer where the scanner was kept. But suddenly, 20 minutes later, two men emerged, sprinted for an office nearby, and returned with a pair of white plastic fans. The $1 million scanner had quit because of sand in a cooler fan. Curse of the furrow, joked a guard nervously. But suddenly, the $1 million machine had stopped working because of the sand in the cooler fan. So it had stopped working, and a few men they rushed towards the office outside, and they came back with a separate fan, and that was attached to the scanner then. And the guard who was there, who was standing outside the trailer, he joked that it was because of the curse of the pharaoh, because they had removed his body from his tomb. They had disturbed the body, and that's why the scanner had stopped working. Eventually, the substitute fans worked well enough to finish the procedure. So finally, the fans started working and the procedure was finished. After checking that no data had been lost, the technicians turned Tut over to the workmen who carried him back to his tomb. So successfully, this scanning project was completed and the data was checked in case any losses, but everything was found intact. And then the technicians, they returned the body to the pallbearers who carried King Tut's body into the tomb. So, less than 3 hours after he was removed from his coffin, the pharaoh again rested in peace where the funerary priest had laid him so long. So, as the fan started working, the procedure was completed successfully, and after the scanning was over, King Tut's body was taken back into the tomb where it had rested for such a long time. So it was when it was buried first time, it is also a very long funerary process. So the funerary priest, they had buried King Tut's body into the tomb. It was taken back again after the scanning to its own original place. Back in the trailer, technicians pulled up astonishing images of King Tut on a computer screen. A gray head took shape from a scattering of pixels, and the technician spun and tilted it in every direction. Neck vertebrae appeared as clearly as in an anatomy class. Other images revealed a hand, several views of the rib cage, and a transection of the skull. So in the trailer, the technicians, they started checking the images that were obtained, and they were satisfied because the wonderful images were obtained. The images showed the gray head which was scattered in pixels. They tried to spin it around. Neck vertebrae, the hands, the rib, everything was clearly visible now, so they were happy with the data obtained. But for now, the pressure was off. Sitting back in his chair, Zahi Hawass smiled, visibly relieved that nothing had gone seriously wrong. I didn't sleep last night, not for a second, he said. I was so worried, but now I think I will go and sleep. So, under the supervision of Zahi Hawass, everything was being conducted. And when this work was completed, he felt that finally the pressure was off. He was feeling relaxed. So, sitting in his chair, he smiled and said that he was relieved that nothing went wrong. And now he wanted to go and sleep because he had not slept the previous night. So, he was extremely tired and he wanted to take rest. So by the time we left the trailer descending metal stairs to the sandy ground, the wind had stopped. So, see, if you remember, when this project started, when the body of King Tut was taken, when the mummy of King Tut was taken out, the weather, it was windy at that time. Strong winds were blowing. Sky was overcast with cloud. And now see how there is a change in the weather. The wind had stopped and sky was clear. The winter air lay cold and still, like death itself in this valley of the departed. Valley of the departed refers to the cemetery, the burial cemetery where all the kings were buried. So the wind had stopped and the winter air was again similar. It was blowing gently, and death like silence was again there. And just above the entrance to Tut's tomb stood Orion, the constellation that ancient Egyptians knew as the soul of Osiris, the god of afterlife, watching over the boy king. So by the time they all left the trailer, wind had stopped, and just above the tomb, the Orion constellation shone in the night sky. It looked as if it was watching over the boy. Another Egyptian belief where it is meant that the constellation of stars, especially Orion, it looks over the Egyptian kings who are buried in the valley of departed. So, dear students, this is about the article written by A.R. Williams about the discovering the life of King Tut. The saga continues because it is not clearly mentioned in the article whether they found good result, but on reading the complete article, it is found that King Tut, he had died naturally. He died of a natural death, but various speculations are there that he died due to malaria fever, or it is also believed that he also met with an accident before his death and he died because of that. But all these are still speculations. This CT scan result, it provided the final answer that the king had died a natural death. So, this is all about the chapter. If we talk about the title, it is aptly chosen because the whole story, it revolves around the discovery about the young king Tut, who had once ruled Egypt for 9 years and then he died suddenly. So, from the discovery of his tomb to the scanning of his body, the whole story, it revolves about finding out the mysteries that kept on lingering from ages. So, when we see this, we find that the title is aptly chosen. Talking about the theme of the story, this story underlines the fact that how scientific intervention is necessary to unearth the buried mysteries. It is very important that the things should be looked from the scientific angle also, and that's why advanced technology was also involved in finding out the answers to the mysteries. So it gives us a conclusive evidence of the past event. The secret about King Tut would not have been revealed if there had been no CT scan of his mummy year after his actual death. So the chapter, it also highlights the fact that traditions, rituals, funerary practices must be respected. We see how Egyptians, they firmly believed in those rituals, and they wanted that others should also respect their belief. So it is said that knowledge about past is useful to supplement the knowledge of the present world we live in. So the old world has its own charms, and we should respect those things, but we should not forget the past because it helps us in making our present better and future secure. So this is all about the chapter Discovering Tut. The saga continues. Hope this is clear to you all. Thank you all. Have a nice day.